Hello travelers, Boardman21 here, and today's build is the Paladin, and we'll be using the physical melee skill Rive, and this is completely based around using the new set scepter that has been put in the game called Gasper's Will. And if any of you are familiar or unfamiliar with Gasper's Will, it's something that adds spell damage. Since it's a scepter, it has a good amount of melee physical damage and adaptive spell damage. But its most cliche niche thing that it has is that it has a percentage chance to ignite on void spell hits. Now you can get quite a bit of ignite chance, up to 245% chance to ignite with every void spell hit you do. So what do? Of course you think Void Knight. That's a way that you can get lots of ignite, or you can get lots of void spell hits, but most void skills you can use between all of them. So this build is actually doable on any of the Sentinel classes, but we're going to run it on the Paladin just because I really like Holy Aura, and we're just going to build around that. So how this works is we're going to have as many Devouring Orbs as possible. We're going to have them casting Abyssal Orb on top of that, and then we're going to have Abyssal Echoes, which also has a fire tag and the ability to have 100% of its own ignite on every hit that it does, as well as chain to all enemies. Then we team that up with Soul Fire and Ignite Chance on potion use, and what you end up with is a huge amount of Ignite on enemies, a pure Ignite build. In fact, if you run through monos, almost everything will just die from the Ignite and everything itself without you even having to use Rive. So why do we throw Rive in? Because Rive in the bottom left of its skill tree can give you 15% more physical damage for every stack of Ignite that's consumed on an area hit of the third strike for 2 seconds, which means you do a lot more damage for 2 seconds after you do a hit with the third strike, consuming all of those Ignite stacks. And you can get a lot of physical damage this way. In my teaser yesterday, we had just broken 10,000% physical damage. After some more testing, throwing on Soulfire, getting some more mob density, we've gotten as high as 50,000% increased physical damage. Now you're not going to have that at all times against single target like bosses. Usually 5 to 10,000 is like the most that you're going to get, but it's still enough to do some huge crits with Rive, especially since you can dual wield and have a lot of melee physical damage. So alright, let's go ahead and get into the skills. For skills, I'm running Abyssal Echoes, Devouring Orb, Lunge, Holy Aura, and Rive. For Abyssal Echoes, we have this set up to spam as many recasts as possible for the 100% ignite chance and to give it the fire tag so that things like Soul of Fire will give it even more ignite chance since it has the fire tag. So we have 3 points in Echomancer, 1 point in Temporal Echo, 4 points in Abyssal Cadence, and if you're looking at these mana costs, yes, this is a very expensive skill. It will cost you 75 mana, but you can get that back before it's even done casting all of its recasts. So with this, you'll cast it once, and then you'll get 5 more total recasts, each one of them a second apart. So the skill itself actually lasts for 5 seconds, and within a few seconds, 2 or 3, you can get all of your mana back and cast it again. We also have 2 points in Stolen Futures, 4 points in Fiery Abyss, so that each Abyssal Echo has a 100% chance to ignite on each enemy that it hits, 1 point in Lightbringer, which gives it 20 base fire damage. It also heals health to allies, but it no longer applies Abyssal Decay, which is fine. If you are having mana problems, we have 5 points in Sonority for 200% increased area. This will make it chain out of control when you have mob density in like Echoes or Arena. If you are having mana problems, you can take some of these points out and put the points into Distant Echoes to give you mana efficiency instead. For Devouring Orb, you'll see that we did not take the Cataclysm or the Orb Master because we do not want to reduce the cooldown, and since we're not echoing, it's more of a Void Knight thing to do this because you get way more of them. It's so efficient to go that route, but casting it every 1.1 seconds is just really annoying. So we're keeping it at its 4-second cooldown, so you only have to have the stutter step once every 4 seconds instead of every second, which allows you to kind of zoom through echoes a bit more. However, it does mean you'll have less total orbs, but that's okay because it does plenty of damage with the way that it's set up. And the point of having Devouring Orb is that we want to have as many void hits from any type of spell as possible because each one of them is going to have huge ignite chance. So we have 1 point in Void Adept, 1 point in Hollow Orb. This now gives them 50% increased duration so that you'll have more of them active at once. 1 point in Abyssal Emission so that each Devouring Orb every 3 seconds will release an Abyssal Orb, which is a void spell that will hit enemies. It seeks them out and will hit them, and that's another void hit for you, so you want as many of those as possible. So we put 9 points in Dark Torrent for that 270% increase Abyssal Orb frequency. I haven't done the math, but I'm pretty sure this puts it down to like once every 1 second, or maybe even just a tad bit faster for it to actually cast an Abyssal Orb for each Devouring Orb that you have. 1 point in Dark Moon so that they now orbit you and go with you. This does increase the mana cost. 2 points in Abyssal Rush so that we have 20% increased move speed basically at all times. 1 point in Cosmic Impact, and 4 points in Sightless Star to increase the cast speed so that it will lessen the stutter step that you feel when you cast it, and it increases the mana efficiency so that it's more cheap. For Lunge, we have this set up so that we get invincibility and extra armor from it. You do get increased damage, however the crit chance is pretty much completely useless since you have a guaranteed crit chance on the 3rd strike of Rive and the first 2 can't crit. So the crit chance is basically just to make your spells kind of have a higher crit chance, but they're so low that it doesn't really matter. You go from the 5% base up to about a 15 to 17% chance, which isn't a huge, but you know, it's an extra crit here and there if you really want it. There's nowhere else you can really put the points to benefit more than where they're at. You can just kind of move them around and have the same efficiency. So here we have 4 points in Into the Fray for extra area, 1 point in Double Strike so that we can hold an extra charge, 3 points in Tactician. This gives it mana efficiency and increases the cooldown recovery speed so you can charge more often. 4 points in Forge On so that after lunging you gain 100% armor for 2 seconds. 1 point in Unstoppable so that you are invincible while lunging. 1 point in Deadly Aim, 1 point in Initiative, and 5 points in Avenger's Charge for all that crit chance so that your spells will have a higher chance to crit. Again, Rive, our melee skill, is already pre-sanctioned to not crit on the 1st and 2nd and guaranteed to crit on the 3rd. It doesn't matter what your crit chance is. So you can feel free to switch those points around if you like them somewhere else. For Holy Aura, we have Holy Aura set up. Now you can run a lot of other skills other than Holy Aura. If you're playing this as a Void Knight, you can run Volatile Reversal, or you can run Anomaly for a lot more Void Leech, which will be very helpful, or more Leech just in general. You can also run Sigils of Hope here instead. However, with all the other things we have using mana, Sigils of Hope may be a little too mana intensive even for this build, but you could do it if you wanted and you'd have a lot more hit damage. But for this setup, we have it set up passively just to give us some more ignite chance, some fire damage, some flame burst on our melee hits, some attack speed, and of course we have 5 points in Shelter from the Storm for more protections. 2 points in Call to Arms for some physical damage, 4 points in Fanatism for that attack speed, 2 points in Rhea's Devotion for some ignite chance, 5 points in Burning Blows for increased global fire damage, 1 point in Flame Burst so that every 8 melee hits on the same enemy, you have a Flame Burst. The odds of that happening is really only against rares and bosses. And then 1 point in Improved Flame Burst for some extra Flame Burst damage. And then for Rive, our main damaging skill, we do have +2 points that is on the chest. And what we're doing with this is we have Gasper's Will as the unique scepter, and for every void spell hit that you do, you get a chance of ignite on the enemy, and it's a lot of ignite, so you're getting a lot. The wand or the scepter itself gives you up to 245% chance to ignite, and then you have Soulfire on, and Soulfire is giving you another 200% chance to ignite. And since we have the fire tag on Abyssal Echoes, it's allowing Abyssal Echoes as a void and a fire to just do lots and lots of ignite. Your Devouring Orbs are obviously void, so every hit they do, the Abyssal Orbs and the Devouring Orbs, is going to be extra ignite. And then of course you have ignite inside of Rive Tree, and you have ignite chance on idols and passives. So you're stacking as much ignite as possible on as many enemies as possible so that you can take advantage of execution, which is going to give you physical damage per stack of ignite consumed on an enemy for 2 seconds. So the way this works is Rive is a 1-2-3 strike attack. You have the first strike, which we have 2 points in Sever to give it some ignite chance. You have the second attack, which we have 1 point in Twisting Fangs to give you ignite chance on that. And then you have the third strike that will go off. And the third strike is going to every enemy that hits. It consumes all the ignite stacks on that enemy, and of course gives you 15% more physical damage per stack of ignite. And because we're stacking so much ignite, you can literally get just crap loads of physical damage. Most of the time we're stacking between 5 and 10,000. However, as mob density goes up and as mobs have more life to allow them not to die on the very first swing and actually let you get, ignite on them and use it, I've gotten it as high as 20 to 30,000 physical damage increase, which was allowing us to crit level 100 mobs for 30,000 damage, which was just crazy. Now you're not going to get that on bosses. It's why single targets are a bit slower, is obviously with mob density, the more mobs you have, the more stacks of ignite that you're able to consume, because Rive is an AoE and will hit all of them all at the same time. So some bosses will take a little bit longer. Obviously, you've seen the gameplay. They're not all going to take that long. It's still a very damaging build, even single target, but they take longer than a mob dense pack would in combat, and that's why the arena and the Mono with the Fate Echoes go really fast, and you really pursue them better than you would a single target. But of course, you can face tank bosses. It does well against both. We also have 2 points in Assassin Sustenance for the Global Health Leech. We have 2 points in Savagery, so you have 30% more hit damage versus ignited enemies. 3 points in Flurry for more first and second strike attack speed. 4 points in Concentration, just so that we could unlock Focus Strike, which allows the third strike to always crit. The reason we went this route, even though there are better routes to go if you can get crit, is we couldn't get enough crit chance to crit often enough to make it more damaging. So it was more beneficial to go here and have that third strike, which is our main damaging hit, always be guaranteed to strike. If you do have somehow critical strike chance enough, or you prefer only having a 25% crit chance, you can put these 5 points elsewhere. You could get up here into the third strike, give it more area, more damage. You could build into the Void side, especially for Void Knight, and get the double Void damage. You can move it around a little bit if you do play Void Knight, but here this was the best setup just to have that guaranteed. You knew it was going to crit, and that third hit was going to hit really hard. Then we have 2 points in Outburst for more third strike area, 1 point in Overwhelm for third strike hit damage, and 3 points in Brutality for 60% more third strike hit damage. For passives, we got 30 points in the base Sentinel class. It might be more than 30, but this taps down at 30. We got 8 points in Juggernaut, 1 point in Overwhelm, 5 points in Counterattack, 5 points in Armor Clad, 5 points in Time and Faith, 1 point in Gladiator, and 5 points in Blade Master. And yes, we're only wearing the sword, we're not benefiting from both, but it's still 30% attack speed, and it's really nice. For the Void Knight, I have 20 points in it, with 10 points in Abyssal Endurance, 5 points in Temporal Corruption, and 5 points in World Eater. Yes, if you wanted to somehow get more points in here, you would benefit from both the spell Void damage flat and from the Void blades. So if you're playing as Void Knight, these are ones you're definitely going to want to go into instead of putting so many points in the Paladin. You would also want the critical strike multiplier with a point in Void Corruption. And then for the Paladin, I have 61 points as it's our mastered class. We have 7 points in Defiance, 8 points in Conviction, 10 points in Majasa Firebrand, 7 points in Holy Symbol, 8 points in Faith Armor, 12 points in Reverence of Duality, and 9 points in Light of Rhea. Now if you want to wear the gloves that convert bleed chance to ignite chance, you can indeed do the penance. However, this is only for melee and throwing. It doesn't affect your spells, and we're getting plenty of ignite. I wanted to use my own pair of crafted gloves instead of having to wear, I believe it's the Hubraze that converts it, so we did not go this route with the bleed. For items and idols, for the idols you want, ones that have Rive Critical Strike Multiplier and chance to ignite Wild High Health are one or the other. If you don't have ones that roll, this is like a perfect idol here. I mean, we have bad rolls, but it's like a perfect idol. One or the other, doesn't matter. Neither is going to really give you more damage than the other. I would probably go with the Rive Critical Strike Multiplier over the extra ignite chance, but of course the extra ignite chance is a huge thing since it gives you all that physical damage to do more damage anyway. So it's kind of a toss-up. Again, either one kind of depends on the rules. A maximum ruled ignite's probably better than a base minimum ruled Rive critical strike multiplier. But again, strive for both, get as many of those as you can, mix and match. Those are going to be the best idols for this build. Then we have some uniques. So the first unique that we're completely building around is Gasper's Will, which is a scepter that comes with a lot of melee physical damage. In fact, it comes with more melee physical damage than you can get on any sword, which is just crazy that a scepter hits harder than a sword, but okay. Then it comes with a massive amount of adaptive spell damage. It can come with as much as a prophecy wand, a top tier one-handed wand, which is also crazy that this is a top tier both adaptive spell damage and melee physical damage. And I'm pretty sure the reason that this saw a buff in the last patch, the reason they raised that adaptive spell damage limit by 10 was because you can't dual wield these, and they wanted to give something beneficial to it since it has such a slow attack speed. So it's more for hybrid builds. I mean, you can just see by looking at it, it is a hybrid build weapon, so of course it's our weapon of choice. And then this one as a set comes with its own special features, which the one that is the most special is going to be that percentage chance to ignite on void spell hit, which is huge because with the Void Knight and with the Sentinel class in general, you can get a lot of Void spell hits with Abyssal Echoes and Devouring Orb. They do lots of hits. You can get a lot of hits per second, especially with the Abyssal Orb inside of Devouring Orb. So we're going to apply this 199% chance to ignite on all Void spell hits. But we'll take it a step further. We're going to actually convert our Abyssal Echoes to not void. We're actually going to convert it, since it already has a 100% ignite chance inside of the skill, we're going to convert it to fire so that it actually benefits from Soulfire. And now Soulfire is going to give you that 194% chance in this case to ignite with fire skills. So we're getting extra ignite with Abyssal Echoes and Devouring Orb. So Devouring Orb will get the ignite chance from Gasper's Will. Abyssal Echoes has a 100% chance inside of its tree, along with all your normal ignite chance that you have, and then it also gets the Soulfire ignite. Now I tested this, and Abyssal Echoes was doing more ignite damage converted to fire with Soulfire than it was not converted to fire with just Gasper's Will. I don't know why, that's just how it worked. So we're going with Soulfire for the more ignite chance. The other unique we have is the Blade of the Forgotten Knight, which is going to be our offhand. It's a sword, and the reason we went with this is, one, it gives you attack speed and cast speed, so it's going to speed up your Rive hits and all of your casting. You're going to get haste for second on hit, which means that it's going to be quicker for you to run in between enemies. You have increased void damage, a whole lot of spell void damage, which is good because we're doing a lot of it. And then you have, of course, a huge amount of melee physical damage and some melee void damage. So it's a top tier sword along with a top tier scepter. You have a lot of melee physical damage between these two. So your Rive is going to hit hard. And then, of course, you have all that adaptive spell damage and added void spell damage, which is going to make all your void spells hit hard. And then all those void spells are going to ignite. And then the ignite's going to make the Rive give you more physical damage, which is going to make Rive hit even harder. You can see the trio of synergies that we have here of why this build is such a high DPS build. And then for crafted items, we have a chest piece, which is going to have tier 5 to Rive so that you have the +2. You do not have to have that, okay? If you do not have it, all you have to do is either take out of one of the attack speeds, take out of the leech. You can take a little less damage against ignite. There's a lot of things you can take out of that are not going to kill this build, so you do not have to have that. However, it is more beneficial and you will do more damage with it. We also have added melee physical damage if wielding a sword, because we have some necrotic resistance and some increased health. For the helm, we have more added melee physical damage if wielding a sword, strength, health, and increased health. We have a Jade Amulet on for the physical damage, physical penetration, some poison resist, and some elemental resist. We have 2 silver rings. The right silver ring has strength, increased physical damage, health, and endurance. The belt has ignite chance on potion use, which is huge because that is global for everything. Your void spells, your melee attacks, your Abyssal Echoes, your Lunge, everything gets that. So when you pop a potion, woohoo, damage through the roof. This also comes with physical damage, hybrid health, and increased health. Our left ring has strength, physical damage, health, and endurance. Our gloves have strength, increased melee attack speed, hybrid health, and some leech on hit. Our boots have strength, increased movement speed, hybrid health, and some physical resist. For our character sheet, as you can see, we are capped on resistance. Okay, we're missing 1% on physical, but we are basically capped on all resistance. Just sitting here, we have 41% armor, which that will go up when you lunge because you'll get the 100% more armor. As you use Holy Aura, you'll see your bonuses are actually a bit higher. You gain a lot of poison and elemental resist. And then for our damages, just standing here, you can see we have almost 300% physical, 200% fire, and a 200% critical strike multiplier. This one does not take in your idols because the idols are skill specific, not global. So you actually have almost a double that for critical strike multiplier between what you can put on items, what you have in passives, and of course what you have on your idols themselves. Void Knight will be a bit higher because you'll have the critical strike multiplier in Void Knight with all of its points. So you can get 60 to 70% higher critical strike multiplier as well as double the orbs by being a Void Knight. In fact, the DPS of this is even higher as a Void Knight. I just put I wanted to use Holy Aura and do this as Paladin first, but your DPS will be much higher as a Void Knight because one, Rive will echo and you'll get 40% more melee attacks in, which is going to be even more. It's just going to be crazy on the Void Knight. But for this build, this is what we have. Now, like I said, it's going to be hard to see the single target damage here against the training dummy because the Devouring Orbs, Abyssal Orbs, will not attack it. So we're actually not getting anywhere close to the amount of Ignite, but you're still going to see how this works. You're still going to get quite a bit here, but it's not going to be as much as you would in real combat. Also, this is a single target. You'll get more. For every target you have, you gain this amount of physical damage because you'll have the same amount. All of this Ignite applying things, all these explosions are all AoE. So the more mobs you have in that little area, the more mobs that you're going to have Ignite stacked on them, and you're going to consume all of those. So you can pretty much multiply how much physical damage you get by the number of mobs that are inside your third strike Rive area of attack. So once you have this going, I'm going to sit here and just start Riving without using Abyssal Echoes, and you can see I'm already at anywhere from 1,000 to 1,800% physical damage here. And we're not popping potions, we haven't used the potion yet, and we're also not using Abyssal Echoes, and we're already between 1,000 and 2,000 physical damage. You can see how crazy this is. We're critting for almost 100k. Then we throw in some Abyssal Echoes, and you can see that we're already getting a little bit higher. Did we break 2,000? We got 1,900, 2,100%, so a little bit higher. You got some more Ignite going on, and then we're going to pop a potion too as well on this next one. We're going to pop Abyssal Echoes and a potion right here. So Abyssal Echoes, potion use, Abyssal Echoes, potion use. Let's see how we get 2,800, 2,500, 2,900. We didn't, well, 3,400 there for a split second. So we got up to 3,400% physical damage on a single target without, and remember, without our Devouring Orbs even applying all the Abyssal Orbs that they would be firing each second to get a hit, which means we're missing out on a lot of damage here. This thing does way more damage out in the real world. So speaking of the real world, let's go ahead and get into some gameplay footage.